Right, well, Happy New Year, everybody. And as always, yeah, so I was just saying before I started the recording, uh, after a break, it's always going to be a little bit um, of a journey to get back up to speed, as it were. Go nice and easy and gently, as always. A little bit of extra care, sort of coming into the postures. Just be aware of areas that feel a bit tight or stiff. You might not be able to get into the postures. Even if you're experienced in this, you might notice these differences. It shouldn't be rushed to develop these things. So to begin with, just sitting comfortably and rubbing your hands together, and then tapping over your face. Look up over your head. Down to one shoulder, tapping your shoulder, and then down the inside of your arm and up the outside. The other shoulder. And your arm. Onto the upper part of your chest. Down lightly on your belly. And then relax. As always, those tapping exercises, very straightforward, very simple. I do them in a particular order, but they don't have to be done in that order. So they're useful practices. You can do them seated, you can do them standing, you can do them in bed before you get up in the morning. And particularly these chilly mornings, it's a good way of just sort of getting your blood and your energy flowing before you become active, and that's a really useful thing to get into the habit of doing. So make use of them however they work best for you. And thinking about our basic posture, and again, think in terms of moving towards this. You want to try and have your weight forwards in your chair with a slight tilt forwards, so that you actually bring your weight into that space between your hips and your feet. If you do find that this is starting to play on your back in a kind of strained way, just be prepared to sit back. There's nothing wrong with being right back in your chair, so you get a bit of support from the back of your chair. You won't feel the same sense of weight in your feet, but it'll still, if you focus a little bit, you'll still feel some of your weight there, and that can be helped if you just raise your heels a little bit, so the balls of your feet should now feel as though they're being pressed into the floor. You don't want to keep it like this because your calf muscles will stiffen up. And slowly lower your heels and see if you can just keep a sense of that little bit of pressure in that area, the front part of your foot. Feeling how this begins to support your body. You're supported by the chair, of course, these postures. But your feet help to support you, your hips, your back supporting the front of your body. And just push your shoulders up towards your ears and slowly down, letting shoulders drop right the way down as far as they're able to go. And repeat that a few times, focusing on that feeling as they drop down, the sensation in muscles, your back and your chest and shoulders. And this is the the releasing, softening, letting go feeling that we refer to a great deal in Tai Chi. And when we start to get a sense of this, and when we start to be reminded of this, it gradually becomes the flavour of the whole art. This is the Chinese term sung. Notice also that at a certain point your shoulders will stop. Sometimes it might be tight in your shoulders, even if they're very loose. They sort of drop into your rib cage. So you begin to feel this sense of support from within your body. Now, do the same thing around the area of your belly, lower back and your hips. Very gently as you pull in. It's not meant to be a strong exercise. And then releasing. Isn't that feeling of dropping down? That's become a little bit more aware of the chair, but also aware that when we stiffen up in that middle part of the body, actually we tighten through the whole body. So the key area to think in terms of trying to release in is this central part of the body, that area that connects upper and lower body. And this is the area that we want to feel is dropping through the chair towards the ground. And once again, as you reach the end of that releasing process, just aware that you still have a shape, you still are supported. So reminding ourselves that actually we don't need that tightness, that stiffness in the body. So just once again sitting and gently turning your head. Quite small movements, especially to begin with. What you don't want to do with this exercise is put any pressure on the side of your neck. So it doesn't matter whether it's just a small movement. When we do get that releasing feeling, one of the characteristic qualities is that it feels like there's more space within the body. And one of the sort of objectives, if you like, one of the things that we want to try and cultivate in these practices is that space, to gradually build that space. And we don't build it by straining, so don't push as hard as you can, and if possible, just try and stop before you reach a point where you feel a barrier. Feel as though you could have moved a little bit. Hands in front of your shoulders, excuse me, circling your elbows around. Sometimes, and this is not going to happen every time, but what you might find is, say, as your elbows come back, you hit that point of tightness. One thing to do is just to withdraw from that, as I've just noted, and that over a period of time will help to increase the range of your movement. But particularly more experienced people, sometimes when we hit that kind of barrier, we can use our intention, we can use that memory of releasing. So I might get to here, say if I'm tight in my upper back, maybe I can just release there and get a little bit more movement that way. So it's not an infallible technique, but we're learning to apply sung, releasing, letting go, to all the movements. Going forwards. And it's one of the ways that we can begin to just build the flow of energy through the body, but just releasing in those areas where it feels like there's a blockage. Your hands come down to your sides and rotating your arms. And then winding around. and then back the other way. Rest. Now, bringing your attention again to that middle part of your body, and then you can feel them, those bones at the base of the pelvis that you're sitting on, thinking of them as being like the blades of a rocking chair, and just tilting forwards, rolling the pelvis forward so you feel your weight move into your feet, with the compression in your legs, and just let the legs expand, pushing you back. Once again, when we do this, we begin to recognize that when something happens in the middle of the body, so hips, pelvis, waist, that center part of the body, it's going to have an effect through the whole of the body. In this instance, that rolling movement creates movement in your feet and your legs as your weight moves, and you get this movement in the upper part of your body, your shoulders going forwards. Using your feet to push yourself back up rather than pulling from your neck or your shoulders, but maybe feeling a slight pull from your hips. Your hips are pulled down, kind of drawing you back into the chair. Just noticing the patterns of movement that build in your upper body. You begin to feel that within that space that we're beginning to cultivate, there's room for the muscles, soft tissues generally, to expand and contract and so on. There's more room for metabolic movement like breathing and circulation. And maybe just becoming aware of a more subtle underlying sense of movement, a sense of connection through the body, like water flowing through the whole of your body. So this sense of the energy. And the principal sort of generator of that in this exercise is going to be this interplay between going forwards and gravity pulling you forwards into your feet. Obviously not too far, you don't want to go all the way forwards and fall out of the chair. And then the response in particular from your legs and your feet, contact with the ground, of this push back, this rising, expanding movement. Then, next time you come to the upright position, just turn a little bit again in the center of your body, and that redirects your weight. So you go more into one leg. Giving yourself a moment in between each movement, the forwards and the backwards and the forwards. Say, for instance, when you go into your feet, just give yourself a moment to release. When you come back into your hips, give yourself a moment to release. So that becomes quite an intuitive process for you. In the other direction. And then, on forward position, turning, swinging your head across, bringing your weight to the other foot, rolling back and turning. So that movement, that rolling movement in the center of your body, drawing your head and your shoulders gently around in a smooth circle. And back the other way. Now, feet. Raise one heel, put the foot out, put the heel back down, lower the ball of your foot, gently press the foot into the floor, plant the foot back. Just measuring the steps so you have a good contact with the ground. And this time, having planted the foot, let your weight move it. So the planting, it's a good description, it's a good term actually. It's just a gentle press in the way that, you know, if you put a plant, if you planted something in a pot or in the ground, you just gently press the earth in and around it, and it just really ensures that we have that nice contact with the ground. On the other side, it requires a softening, a stepping, releasing in the sole of your foot and really all the way through your leg, because the floor is hard. So the floor is not going to give, so your foot will just find that contact. A useful thing in this weather that we're having when it's slippery underfoot. So ease forwards and back. And then alternating from side to side. Obviously, when we walk down the road, we don't walk down with the same sort of one step and then the movement of the weight, but both the step and planting and weight transfer are really important elements of everyday walking. So this exercise helps us to just practice these and to cultivate what's required in those elements, and that will have an impact on just our daily activities. And then just a word that the term Tai Chi walking has suddenly become very popular in social media, and people advertising various benefits. I would be very cautious about those. There's one that I've seen and also I've heard of, people saying, yeah, practice Tai Chi walking and you'll lose weight within 6 weeks and so on and so forth. I know of no studies that can verify that, and it's certainly not a claim that I would make. I think the Tai Chi walking is a really good practice, both seated and standing, but I've never heard of a verified case of things of some of the claims being made. So stuff's out there, and there are ideas that are useful to then do have a look at all of those, but be careful about some of these claims that are being bandied around at the moment. So coming back and just sitting, get your hands drop to your sides again, just rotate the hands so the palms forwards. This time combining the weight transfer with the rotation in the exercise bird folds his wings. One of the attributes of this exercise is to make us aware of how much movement, how much energy there can be in our arms and our hands without us actually having to do that much. It's a rotation. I'm not moving my arms forwards or backwards. My shoulders are going forward because my weight is moving. My arms are just simply rotating. It's a rotation from the shoulder all the way down into your fingers. And beginning to feel with this simple exercise, once again, that sense of a connection, really, from your hips and your feet up through your legs to your back, from your back into your chest and your shoulders, down through your arms into your fingers. We want to try and feel that movement through those connections becomes smoother, more fluid, as the the whole session progresses. And then it's just up and down. This time they do swing a little bit. The momentum, the energy from the transfer of your weight, just pushing your arms through as you settle into your feet. So just let your arms swing, the full weight of your arms swinging down and through, not trying to lift your arms, not straining in your shoulder. So feel in the shoulder joints, as those are the shoulder joints being very gently massaged by the movement. So you're not actually having to create movement in your shoulders, it's already there. What we really do at this point with the muscles of the shoulders and arms and hands is create a shape for that movement to flow through. There are some exercises where the arms are a little bit more independent, but we should never lose that sense of the connection to the rest of the body. One more time, and forwards, this time leaving your arms out as you come back, so they're drawn up as though you're rolling the ball in towards your chest. You want to feel that the ball, in the first instance, doesn't move. So there's a slight sense of resistance there. The kind of feeling you might get if you're in the supermarket and you pull on your trolley. And the first few moments it doesn't move and then it starts to flow in. And in that moment or two, just feel what's happening from your hips to your shoulders and then down into your fingers. It's almost like an elastic band stretching out and then beginning to contract. This is quite a good exercise to discover that quality. Having noticed it, just see where you can feel that happening in subsequent exercises. So there's an almost indistinguishable delay between, say, your weight beginning to move, your shoulders moving back, and your arms following. Delay is probably the wrong word. It's not a separate thing, but it's hard to describe. You may notice as you settle into a nice steady rhythm that things like your breathing begin to synchronize quite naturally with the movement. No, don't try and stick to a breathing pattern, but it's nice when that happens. It's something that we gradually develop in these arts. You may find that sometimes for a few rounds your breathing matches the movement, stays with the movement, then you might need to take a slightly longer breath, some sort of maybe an extra breath, and that's fine. Don't hold your breath, don't strain for a breathing pattern. This time as you come back up, rotate your hands so your arms are facing inwards, drawing back, opening your chest. Pigeon spreads its wings. Expanding up through belly, solar plexus and chest. So feeling the movement building from the ground. Just going back to our breathing for a few moments. What we want to try and do is to breathe in here and feel as though that begins with that expansion in the belly. So there's this expansion upwards through the body that very gently draws the air into our lungs. can take a while to develop, and once again, it shouldn't be forced. Just have it as a kind of idea and intention at the back of your mind. Now sinking back, bringing your hands in towards your hips, turning and pushing wave. Going back to the supermarket trolley image, it's as though you're pushing and pulling the trolley now. So a slightly more focused, slightly stronger quality. The wave is flowing forwards in your body, down into your feet, and then flowing backwards down into your hips. Bringing a slightly more focused intention here. You're actually pushing something, like the supermarket trolley. And trying to push with that background of sung, the releasing and the softening. One more time. Then combining that with step in, so step out with one foot, plant the foot, move forward. So don't be in a hurry to move forward. Make sure you get the step, changing sides, plant the foot so that you've got somewhere to move into. Again, important, particularly in our current weather where it's very icy and slippery, to not lose touch with your feet. That sounds daft, but it's very easy to do. Be clear on this planting of the foot, the connection with the ground. And then hands fisted. And forwards and backwards. A loose fist, you should be able to get your finger down there. Palm up here as you come back. And a rotation forwards and back. Punch with both fists. Then overextend your arms. The movement builds. So, for instance, if I were to do nothing with my arms, this is how far they would move. If I do this and if I just gently extend through my back to my shoulders, they go a little bit further. So again, there's that almost elastic feel in the body. And if I then get to here and let my arms go out a little bit further, it goes up further still. So ideally, you want to feel that the extension, well, you can, all the way from your feet, but certainly from your hips up through your back and spine into your arms. Think about a cat stretching out. And that will leave more space in your shoulders for the rotation. the forward position here, open your fingers. Again, opening the chest, coming in, and then back into the pushing forwards. It feels as though, again, your whole body is part of the movement the whole time. That just helps to ensure that the flow, the energy continues to move. And then, when you come back, turning your hands palm down. Turn just a little bit so you're facing more towards one leg. Ease forwards, that same extension through back, spine, arms and fingers. Turn, bringing your weight across the other side, drawing in, polishing the table. Then the other direction, easing out. One of the useful phrases from the old writings in Tai Chi, I always think, it's one that says that when one part of your body is in motion, your whole body is in motion. It may not be literally true, but it's suggesting that no one part of the body is ever passive in this. And so we get this sense of the whole body, and again that leads us to this sense of the flow of the movement, the flow of the energy through the whole. It also means that there's less strain potentially on back, shoulders and arms. And it leads to a stronger movement. One more time. And then so rather than just one or two parts of the body producing the movement, when the whole body produces the movement, it reduces the potential strain on all parts of the body, and it means that we engage the whole body. This is where that idea of a stronger movement comes from. Polishing the table isn't just the arms doing this. Polishing the table is I go forward, my weight goes forward, my centre has turned, there's an extension through back, spine, shoulders, my arms just extending outward, but like this, it doesn't feel strained. I could hold this position, whereas if I'm here and I've just put this out, I can instantly feel the tightness, the stiffness building up in my muscles. And I think this growing awareness that we develop with these arts of what we might call an holistic movement feels very good to us. I think it makes a great contribution to our well-being. We feel connected in our body. The movements are smoother, more fluid, and it kind of helps us to feel better, I think. Now, the next set of exercises, the same thing is true. It's a little bit more subtle. Bringing your hands around to this position as though you're cradling a ball. Keeping the arms in this position and just rocking your weight forwards and backwards again. So what we get here is an almost wave-like movement forwards and then backwards, rising from my feet, from my hips, coming up through the upper part of the body, draining away through the feet or hips. So what we're doing at the moment is we're alternating those waves. We go forwards, we go backwards, we go forwards, we go backwards. But if we can get that feeling of dropping down into our hips and our feet, and get the feeling of the rising movement at the same time as each other, rather than going forwards or backwards, the tendency will be to produce an upward movement. I'm exaggerating now, you shouldn't be doing it this much, but look at how my back and my head are moving. There's a slight press downwards through my feet, a slight press downwards through my hips, and that rising movement again lengthening through back and spine. Again, I would emphasize this is, I'm trying to demonstrate something that actually wouldn't be visible. It's something that's happening within the body. And then what's happening now is that rising wave pushes your arms up, turn them over as though there's a ball underneath them. Let your hips drop, your shoulders drop, back contracts, pressing the ball down into water. As a general principle or progression in these arts, the external movements tend to get a bit smaller, or at least some of them do, because more and more we're focusing on what's happening within the body. These Tai Chi and Qigong are sometimes referred to as internal arts. That's not to say we're not concerned with the external, and it's often the external shape, the choreography of the movement that draws our attention inwards to those subtler movements within our bodies. And it's those subtler movements that are more likely to be affected by our minds in one way or another, by intention, via memory, via imagery, and so on. This time, turning your fingers out, rotating your arms, with the expansion pushing your arms away. Have the exercise the wild goose. Probably no one of those small changes that we begin to become aware of within the body would on its own have much effect. But again, when one part of your body is in motion, your whole body is in motion. It's not a single movement, it's the accumulation of movements. Some coming forward just a little bit more, so your hands swing in front of your knees. Sit back, push up, elbows pushed out, drawing your fingers around, just parting the clouds. Being careful not to push your arms up and out so far that you begin to strain in your shoulders or your upper back. One of the more common images that we bring into these practices is that we're moving through water. That encourages this development of a movement infused by this quality of releasing the soul. And it also encourages a gentle, ongoing conditioning within the body. We all know that the density of water means that we have to work quite hard to move through it, but that we don't need to strain. In fact, straining makes it more difficult. Letting your hands drop down, feeling the weight of your arms hanging from your shoulders, hips dropping into the chair, and feeling that push up and focusing on one side of your body. And that push your arm up, wind around, so you're plucking something off a tree and pull down. So dragon plucks the stars from the sky. Once again, your attention returning to your center and sinking into the chair, and then to the opposite side. And down. One more on each side. And then bringing both hands in. Again, that sinking down and the push up. This time rotating your arms so you're pressing palms of your hands into a low ceiling. Coming back, just lightly touch the side of your hips with the inside of your arm and then push out sideways. Punctuating the movement with this moment of settling mind and body so that we begin to develop the habit of bringing our attention literally to our centre, to centering ourselves, feeling that part of the body dropping towards the ground. One of the great benefits, one of the great takeaways of this art, because the centre of your body is always with you, the ground's always with you. And as you see from this exercise, it doesn't take long to actually do that, just to remind yourself of that spacious, still quality. One more round. Extend one foot, knees slightly bent, turn your hand palm forwards. Now the pelvis rolls forwards. Hips stay back though, your weight stays back, and it's like you're being pulled back into the chair, expanding in the front of your body. It's called scooping the sea and looking at the sky. Be very careful as you come up. You want to feel as though you're being pulled back, or you're sort of like you're flopping back into your favourite chair, rather than feeling that you have to sort of stiffen and strain in your back, your shoulders. And then grasping the tiger's ears. Again, that gentle extension through your back, not straining. Switching sides. And change. If it's not comfortable for your arms to reach that point level with your ears, do it as a lower movement. You could do it like this. Again, you stiffen your back or your shoulders, you might do this gradually through that process of releasing, building the energy, creating the space for the energy to flow into, gradually getting that range of movement that you're looking for, but never straining. Sit back. So going into the standing exercise, preparing to stand, just rubbing your hands together and then tapping over your face. Over your head and neck. Down to one shoulder and your arm. And on the other side, into the upper part of your chest. Down to your belly. Now, your legs. So, I mentioned doing this in bed. It's a good practice to get into. Sometimes we can get out of bed, we're half asleep, a bit chilly, can be a tricky time. So this is, again, a simple exercise to prepare yourself. Pushing your heels up, the muscles of your legs working, and then circling around. Okay, so just coming into the standing position and taking a look again at this process of weight transfer and how it relates to walking. Stand with your feet below your hips and imagine parallel lines going across the room. Turn your right foot out, or your left foot if you're mirroring my movement. Step forwards as though you're standing on the corners of a square. Keep the width of your step. You start doing it like this. It's good practice. Those of you with more experience, you can have a go at this. But to begin with, it feels like you're trying to balance on a log. It's not helpful. And just beginning to transfer your weight from one foot to another. And again, think about the springiness in your legs. I go into my back leg, I release. My knee may bend a bit more, but that sense of compression gets stronger. And then I feel the push up. Then I take that into the front leg and I do the same thing again. Again, this is not a suggestion that we necessarily will move like this when we're going to the shops or whatever, but it does give us a chance to really feel the components of weight transfer, of movement, of alignment, all of which are crucial to our mobility. And then you can imagine being in water again up to shoulder height, so there's that bit of a sense of resistance around you, and so we begin to notice how our upper body responds to this. And again, we start to get that sense of the whole of the movement from the ground upwards. And then going into your back foot, just raise your front toes a little bit. You can have the front foot turned out slightly at this point. Push your back knee in so your heel comes up. And as you do that, you'll find that your body shifts just a little bit more, bringing your upper body in line with your supporting leg, allowing your weight to drop straight down. Don't lean, because when that happens, that happens. So we gradually get more of our weight going into each foot. And it's at that point that we can begin to do the steps. So you draw, say, your back foot in, push back out to hip width, put the ball of your foot down, lower your heel, plant the foot, and then move your weight. Raise your toes, do the same thing, but when you step forwards, it's your heel first, and planting. I sometimes describe the planting feeling, appropriately enough for the weather we have at the moment, as though you're walking on thin ice. So we're just training our body, we're training our minds, and we're training our nervous system, that intermediary between body and mind, to really pay attention to that contact with the ground. Shake out. It's a very important exercise. I had a lady in one of my classes in weather like we're getting at the moment, slippery underfoot, telling me she was standing at a bus stop and she felt that her right foot, she was very specific, so her right foot began to slide, which could have easily led to her falling over. And she said all she did was she just transferred her weight to the other foot, so she kept her stability. Seems like a small thing, but obviously, you know, it can have great effects. So let's try that on the other side. Stepping onto the corners of the square, transferring your weight, giving yourself a moment to settle in. If we become aware of these things and things like planting the foot, releasing, become more habitual, we're more likely to be able to make use of them in our daily activities. Remember that feeling of releasing, particularly at the hips, lower back. That feeling that we get when our centre of gravity drops when we move down. Raising toes, raising your heel. Stepping in. When you step out, taking the time to plant the foot. Another image that we might use for this is like, it's like if you're paddling in the sea, say on a sandy beach, and you don't want to fall in, so you're being very careful, very cautious about making sure that your foot's down properly before you commit your weight to it. Sometimes when it's slippery underneath, advice from the NHS is, take shorter, wider steps, which is what we're doing here, of course. And then going from side to side. So bring your front foot in, step out to the side, move your weight across, take your time, align your body over the leg, step forwards. These are also really useful practices, very simple, but they encourage us to pay attention to our bodies, and that's something that really helps to generate a very characteristic quality of calmness, of stillness that accompanies the active movements of Tai Chi, the stillness, as we say, within the movement. These are moving meditations. This time, step forwards, backwards, whichever way you've got space, and take a few steps forwards, trying to keep the width of the step, feeling that contact with the ground. Releasing rather than straining. So if you get to points that you're feeling a bit wobbly, this does you no good at all. There's nothing out there to grab hold of. Keep your shoulders relaxed, releasing, seeing if you can practice that. And then changing direction. Bringing your feet parallel. And shake out. Run that time. Go back to your chairs. So going back to that releasing feeling and what happens in those moments when we feel, oh, we're about to fall. This happens. Everything stiffens up, and our centre of gravity comes up. It's actually going to make us more likely to fall. But it's also very difficult to release. If you feel as though you're about to fall, if you haven't practiced it, then it's very difficult to just kind of release, to relax in that way. So if you find that, but even if you don't, more experienced people, this is a really interesting exercise. If I do this, say, with my hand on the wall, that gives me just that little bit of extra support. So I can get to here and I think, actually, I'm still holding a bit of tightness here. And just using that support to help you to really feel what's going on in your body. Feeling that, yeah, it's possible for you to do this. And if it's a wall you're using, you can begin to take that into the full step in. If you haven't got a convenient wall, there's an example. I haven't quite got the rooting down. I'm a bit oops like this. So look at my hands. I don't want to do that. So I can put my hand on the wall and think, well, okay, just give myself that space, that time to settle. And then I can take the step. And again, we begin to build these as habits. If we practice them, they become more familiar to us. And then one day, like the lady at the bus stop, we find, oh, we just deal with it, with the situation that could have quite drastic effects. So the weight transfer, both seated and standing, the step in and the walk in seated and standing, really help us to kind of rebuild and to reassess how we're moving around. So they're very important practices, very important ways of applying the Tai Chi principles like rooting down, releasing, awareness of posture and so on and so forth. It's a very practical quality to it. Now just letting your hands drop down and push your arms out. Embrace tiger, return to the mountain. Bringing your arms around. So again, releasing your hips, in your back, in your shoulders, drawing your arms in and down. And from this position here, feeling that rising movement that's coming up. Releasing, sinking down, settling is not optional. It's actually one side of this process of contraction and expansion, drawing inwards and pushing outwards, that are paired. Yang to yin to yang to yin. And without the contraction, without the drawing in, without the rooting down, there won't be any energy to expand with. One more time. And rest. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. As always, please do get in touch if you have any questions or comments, and stay safe in the cold weather. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.